Federal Emergency Management Agency. Giuffrida was an old cold warrior from Reagan's California days whose specialty was suppression of unrest and dissent. Giuffrida, North, and George Bush began to turn FEMA into an instrument of domestic anti-terrorism.
You're dealing with a group of people in the Reagan administration who equated political dissent with treason, and who cannot differentiate between emergency procedures, which I think everyone agrees are necessary, and suppressing political dissent. And with North and Poindexter and Casey, you had a group of people who saw Americans who disagree with them as the enemy. As the enemy.
Colonel North, in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster? Mr. Chairman.
I believe that question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir?
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution. And I was deeply concerned about it and wondered if that was the area in which he had worked.
May I most respectfully request that that matter not be touched upon at this stage. If we wish to get into this, I'm certain arrangements can be made for an executive session.
And tragically, the only member who got close was Jack Brooks.
And then it's coming here. I have shown you now, in the last few months, the actual unrest and violence in the streets of Europe. Again, today in Greece, the unions shut down public transportation. Who did I tell you would do that? The unions. Students are taking to the streets again in England over possible tuition hikes. I told you that would happen a year ago. We showed you the burning cars. We've showed you how they are mirroring the failed economic policies here in America. I'm a paranoid lunatic, seditious. This must just be suffocating paranoia. Now, let me ask you this. Are they willing now to say the same thing about the Pentagon? Because they have been wargaming an economic crisis for almost 2 years now. One of these war games was called Unified Quest 2011. Listen to what they are preparing for at the Pentagon.
In that wargaming series, they're looking at the implications of large-scale economic breakdown inside the United States that would force the Army to keep, quote, domestic order among civil unrest and force the Army to deal with fragmented global power and drastically lower...
I've talked about the importance for preparing for tough times, having enough food and supplies, getting out of debt, being self-reliant, the reaction without merit, doomsday, probably mentally ill. But when Time magazine posts an article, impending crisis, Earth to run out of food by 2050, I'm sure this is some sort of green nightmare. This is good journalism. The only people I trust in the government, only ones I trust, are the military. The military is preparing. Are you? But the military, I believe, are being boxed into a corner by people who actually have their hands on the levers of power. And it is those holding the levers of power that have been creating the conditions to make these scenarios possible. And that goes anywhere from Harry Reid to Obama all the way to the kingmaker himself. We're now all saying the same thing. I've been saying it for 2 years. That should tell you something that they've now joined. Because the next thing on the docket is to control the media and to control food prices. Civil unrest and rising food prices and controlling the media. Oh, December 20th, FCC votes on the internet. If anybody doesn't believe this government is capable of doing these kinds of things,
We'll now vote for approval of H.R. 8791, the Homeland Terrorism Preparedness Bill. Civilian and military units shall be trained in containment and combat of classified, including irradiated classified, with possibility of classified airborne, classified flesh-eating, classified, and or all of the above, in such event as classified spewing, classified escape, are released or otherwise become uncontrollable. Air Force units may also be directed to combat said classified due to their enormous size and otherworldly strengths. Should event occur in urban areas, Jesus. That's classified, far surpassing our darkest nightmares. Should casualties exceed classified body disposal actions, shall be halted and associated resources shall be reallocated to classified underground, classified protected birthing centers. A new Bill of Rights shall be drafted and approved by classified.
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no.
Discovered is that Dick and Barack Obama are 8th cousins. What? Is that an amazing thing? Yes.
He's President Bush's 9th cousin once removed. Cheney's cousin Barack Obama.
In 2016, immigrant families crossing the border is 40% higher than the previous record in 2014. When the history books are written, the flood of a great unknown and unchecked exodus of chaos in the face of all reason, civility, and legality, revolving around the enforcement of immigration laws that have dictated the policy for immigration for centuries, will go down as one of the most reckless acts instigated by a U.S. president in modern history.
But every time you try to get away from the government, they'll kill you.
Put you in prison. Like he becomes a dictator?
The dictators, huh? Martial law, baby. When martial law hits, everybody's gonna turn against everybody, dude. You can't even tell them that you have a fucking sandwich in your house, because when the law gets them, bro, they're gonna fucking torture them, they're gonna fucking hurt them, they're gonna beat them, dude, let me put it this way, bro. In the Bible, what it states, in the Bible, it's gonna happen. And this is right here, we're in San Jose, baby. We're in fucking San Jose. And you got more trucks, armored trucks.
When protesters stormed the Bay Area hotel where Donald Trump was speaking Friday, they burned an American flag and an effigy of the candidate. The night before in Costa Mesa, California, protesters swarmed the parking lot of a Trump rally. They waved Mexican flags in protest to his immigration policy and became violent, blocking traffic, smashing police cars, even bloodying one Trump supporter. This morning, the candidate said in a tweet the protesters in California were thugs and criminals.
I think things are gonna get worse.
Luis Serrano is an organizer with the California Immigration Youth Justice Alliance. Members of the group were at the Costa Mesa protest, but Serrano says they did not take part in the violence.
I don't condone those actions, but I do think that we have to look deeper into the root causes of things.
When people burn flags, jump on police cars, what does that do to the cause?
We need to ask questions on why that's happening. There's a lot of racism going on, and this is the reaction we're getting from that.
You have a lot of frustration and anger. The question is, can that frustration and anger be expressed in a way that's constructive?
USC law professor Jody Armour says when protesters turn violent, it can become a distraction from their message.
We have to kind of strike a balance between recognizing that a riot may be the language of the unheard, as MLK said, on the one hand, but it may also be self-destructive and self-defeating.
But Serrano says as long as Trump continues to instigate, the unrest will continue to grow.
I think people are going to get more frustrated, people are going to keep coming out, and people are going to keep showing up and reacting in ways that are unpredictable.
And that may be the only certainty leading up to the California primary in June.
As the flood of illegals surges over the southern border, President Obama is going for broke, literally. CNS News reports that since the budget deal was signed in November of 2015, in just 6 months, Obama has added another trillion to our national debt, bringing it to a monstrous $19 trillion. While more taxpayer money is thrown at the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement deportation budget, deportations themselves have decreased by nearly 43%. Breitbart reports, according to a recent chart from the Senate Subcommittee on Immigration and National Interest, ICE removed nearly 43% fewer total aliens from the United States in the fiscal year of 2015 than it did in the fiscal year.
Why don't you let people know why you wrote that and what it means?
I wrote that because there's a bunch of articles that have come out. It started with Rex 84, and it's turned into a bunch of manuals and a bunch of executive orders that put in place martial law. And the military likes to perform war games, so that's why we're seeing military on the streets practicing. They are actually practicing. The tanks that we see on the streets and the National Guard patrolling neighborhoods and the practices that they're doing with our local police department, this is all in preparation for martial law, so that when they do actually lock down the country, they've got everything secured.
People that don't run in these circles and to whom this information is new, Suzanne, they love to say that we're all conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing nuts because we still live in a republic. But I think what we're starting to see, for anybody who is objective at all, is we're seeing a totalitarian system now unveil itself. And ever since essentially 9/11 happened, it's been more and more of these draconian measures that are leading us right down the road to martial law. What do you think will be the cause of the declaration of martial law? Will it be a financial collapse or something altogether different? We've seen a lot of false flags. What do you think would be the cause of martial law? DHS and U.S. military make final preparations before announcing martial law. About 6 paragraphs down, you wrote, the acquisition of armory by the DHS and contracts for bulletproof glass for checkpoint booths to be positioned strategically throughout the nation on public highways have heightened awareness that the U.S. government is preparing for a well-planned domestic military action. DHS armored vehicles have been sighted on highways in Kentucky and across the country, I might add. I guess what I'm wondering, Suzanne, from your expert view, do you think that the military could actually lock down this country? We're geographically gigantic. They had a hard time locking down Baghdad. The reality of this is that the PSYOP, I think, is against the people.
I agree with you that it's going to be difficult, and that's why they've done beta testing. The NATO summit, we saw that they were trying to do that there as well. They've allocated foreign troops. They've been training with the Polish army and the Russian army. The Russian army has shown up in Colorado. There have been reports that the Russian army have been starting the fires. And the reports that I got, that I put in that article that you just mentioned, the fires were started right in front of areas that were militarily secured. So it's my understanding that they might have been starting the fires to try and get people out of the way, get people moved out of the way so they wouldn't see what they're doing. DHS has contracted independent contractors to cover up the holes for the underground bases that they're building. So their use of foreign troops, which goes right back to Rex 84, back in the early 80s, I don't think they're going to have a problem. They're going to bring NATO forces onto the streets and to work with them, and that doubles or triples their military capacity. I think they're going to definitely try this. I think they're going to use foreign troops along with them. The foreign troops also serve two purposes. They're extra security, and also if something does happen, well, they can blame it on the foreign troops. You know, they can say, oh my God, the Polish army was here. Oh, the Russians were doing this. We should go and get the Russians now.
Yeah, I think what this government is now doing with these false flags with what I'm calling these false flags that we saw in Aurora and in Wisconsin, is they're doing their level best before martial law happens to disarm the people. What do you make of what I just said there, and what do you make of what I'm calling false flags in Aurora and Wisconsin, Suzanne?
They are definitely false flags. James Holmes had ties all the way going back to his grandfather with DARPA and mind control techniques, and he was studying mind control. He worked with the Salk Institute on mind control and flicker fusion, which is where they insert images into the screen while you're watching television or even on a website, and it moves so fast that only your subconscious picks it up.